If everybody could please find their seats, we're going to go ahead and get started, please. Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are ready to begin this evening's board meeting. The school board meeting of May 25th, 2021 is now called to order. The time is 6 p.m. We would like to take this opportunity to remind the members of the public of the district mission, which is to ensure that each student achieves his or her highest personal potential and the district vision to be a world-class school system. This evening's agenda includes moment of silence, pledge of allegiance, resolutions, public comments, consent action items, which include 3 items under board office, which are for good cause. The 3 good cause items are approval for the interview candidates for the interim superintendent position, approval of the superintendent search firm advertisement and advertisement platforms. Number 3, appointment to the citizens member to the Value Adjustment Board. As presiding officer, I find there is good cause to add these 3 items to the agenda. 2 items under executive services, which one is good cause. Dr. Atkins, please provide an explanation for this one item.
Okay, item G2, good cause, approval of the second amendment to the memorandum of understanding with Lee Health for COVID-19 rapid testing for the school district. This amendment actually allows Lee Health to provide COVID vaccines to our students and staff members, much like they do testing now. The service is completely voluntary, which is important, voluntary. For families, we're simply offering this as a convenience.
Thank you. As presiding officer, I find there is good cause to add this one item to the agenda. 16 items under academic services, which one is good cause. Dr. Atkins, please provide an explanation for this one item.
Madam Chair, this is H16, approval to increase the facility rental expenditure for graduation at Hertz Arena. This is a cost of $3,000. It's a changeover fee as a license condition, and this is because we are converting it from an ICE environment to a non-ICE environment. It is something that was listed in the term of the contract. So we need to move forward with graduations, and that's a cost increase that goes with it. So,
great, thank you. As presiding officer, I find there is good cause to add this one item to the agenda. 6 items under business services, 3 items under human resources, 12 items under operations, and 4 items under other business. Board members, is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
I recommend that we adopt the agenda as published.
Thank you, Ms. Fisher. And second by Ms. Vaughn. Thank you, Ms. Vaughn. And please record your vote.
Ooh.
Is everybody able to record their vote? Mm-hmm. Who are we waiting for? Okay, 6-0, motion passes. Thank you. Okay, Ms. Morgan will lead us in a moment of silence, after which Ms. Vaughn will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Morgan, please lead us in a moment of silence.
Please rise. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Vaughn?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Next, we have the resolutions, approval of resolution proclaiming June 2021 as Caribbean American Heritage Month. Board members, is there a motion to approve? Ms. Vaughn?
I move to approve that resolution.
Thank you, Ms. Vaughn. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Fisher. And please record your vote.
It comes later.
Ms. Roman, has everyone voted? I can't see that. Is it 5-1?
That's 5-1.
Thank you. 5-1, motion carries. Okay, next on the agenda is public comment. Ms. Dupree Bruno, please address the item of public comment.
Good evening. Thank you, Madam Chair. School board policy provides the opportunity at this point in the meeting to address the board concerning any matter on this meeting's agenda or any other matter relevant to the operation of the school district. If you completed a blue card, make sure it's in the basket that's provided. If you need a blue card, they are located in the hallway outside of the boardroom. The rules concerning public comment are posted in the back. Public comment will be made from the microphone in the back. Please be advised that the board does not respond during public comment to remarks made by speakers. At the end of the public comment period, the board chair may address some of the concerns or the assignment of any concerns or requests to the superintendent. Speakers and those attending the meeting are expected to act in a respectful manner. The purpose of public comment is to provide feedback. Personal attacks on individuals or abusive language are prohibited. In addition, clapping, hissing, and booing, unreasonably loud and or offensive language, swearing, cursing, or a display of temper are prohibited. Please also bear in mind that we often have students who attend our board meetings. Speakers who fail to follow proper decorum in the chambers will be ruled out of order. Any speaker continuing with such remarks will be required to relinquish the microphone per Board Policy 1.11 and may be removed from the chambers. There will be one warning. Please govern yourself accordingly. Per Board Policy 1.11, the time per speaker is 3 minutes if there are 20, 2 minutes if there are 30, and 1 minute if there are 31 speakers or more. Per the policy, the maximum time allowed for public comment is 1 hour. You will find a countdown on the big screen in the front of the room. Once your time has elapsed, the microphone will automatically shut off. We encourage you to address the board as a whole. Please do not address each other. And also recognize that the board acts as a collective body. Please state your name prior to making your comment. I will call your names 5 speakers at a time, and then please follow staff's direction when lining up. Madam Chair, we have 38 speakers for this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Dupree Bruno. Is there anyone out in the audience who did not have an opportunity to fill out a blue card that would wish to, that's on my left side? Is there anyone on the right side? Anyone in the back who has not had an opportunity to fill out a card yet? Okay, seeing none, Mr. Dupree Bruno, would you please go ahead and start calling?
Thank you. Will the following individuals please line up? Robert Roper, Sean Williams, Rachel Spiller, Maria Spiller, Stephanie Brooks.
Robert Roper, also known as Ward Cleaver. Did you hear about the school board in California where children as young as 4 and 5 years old were exposed to LGBTQ teaching? Or the school board in Oregon, they had a policy to allow boys and girls restrooms. Or the school board in Washington State that adopted a policy to allow boys to compete with girls in sports. Or the one out in Michigan, the school board that offered an off-the-record policy permitting staff to withhold information from parents. Did you hear about the school board in Virginia? They actually promoted activist training of students, using students to back up the staff agenda in public meetings opposing parents. Or the school board in Tennessee, where teachers and students are afraid to say anything contrary to LGBTQ+ for fear of retaliation. Oh wait, those things didn't happen there. They all happen here in Southwest Florida. Indoctrination means teaching someone something to accept a set of beliefs without questioning them.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, Board of...
If you just, we're going to restart your clock
Sean
because it
Williams.
wasn't up yet.
I would like to speak about those parental rights. Before you create a blanket policy on parental rights, it's what those parents will do with that knowledge that matters the most. Most parents are going to hug their children just a little bit tighter. Some will send their children to so-called reparative therapy, sometimes called conversion therapy, which can inflict immeasurable harm on the victims, can lead to lifelong trauma. Family rejection equals 8 times more self-harm and thoughts of suicide, 5 times more depression, 3 times more illegal drug use compared to their peers. These are debunked and extremely dangerous and sometimes fatal consequences. Some parents could kill their gay sons, rape their lesbian daughters, murder their transgender sons and daughters. LGBT youth are born perfect, and they all deserve to grow up knowing that they're celebrated and valued for exactly who they are.
Thank you.
My name is Emery Spiller, and I'm from the Southwest Florida LGBT+ Coalition. I realize that all of you, no matter your personal beliefs, have the intent to protect students. I've heard it asked by board members why trans anti-discrimination needs to be singled out when it's possibly covered under other protected categories. The answer is because today, trans lives are particularly vulnerable. These are the names of trans lives that have been taken by anti-trans violence just this year, 2021. Tiana Alexander, Samuel Edward Damian Valentine, Bianca Banks, Dominique Jackson, 50 Bands, Alexis Braxton, China Carrillo, Jeffrey Bright, Jasmine Kennedy, Jenna Franks, Diamond Sanders, Rayana Pardo, Jada Peterson, Dominique Luscious, Remy Fennell, Tiara Banks, Natalia Smut, Iris Santos, Tiffany Thomas, Carrie Washington, Jahara D'Alto, Whispering Wind Bear Spirit.
Will the following individuals please line up? Crystal Saiskon, Carrie Lerner, Christy DeVigelli, Willie Middleton, and Susan.
I'm Rachel Spiller, and I will be continuing her list of the trans lives lost to anti-trans violence this year. Sophie Vasquez, Danica Henson, Serenity Hollis, Oliver Taylor, and Thomas Harden. And that's just in these first months of 2021. It's not enough to aim to do no harm. You have a duty as custodians of tomorrow to keep bending the arc toward justice to the day when there are no victims and no perpetrators of anti-trans violence.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Brooks. I've been a children's case manager and supervisor in the community for over 7 years, and I'm part of the Southwest Florida Coalition for LGBTQ youth. And I'm here to say that it is a moot point being made by those who are here demanding the best practices and action steps be removed from the Code of Conduct. Had they bothered to do any research, they would know that just last year, the 11th Circuit ruled in favor of Drew Adams, setting precedent that the schools must treat transgender students equally in the bathrooms under Title IX. Trashing Equality Florida's version of the best practices and action steps doesn't change the fact that it's illegal to deny access to the bathroom that matches a child's gender identity. There will always be people on the wrong side of history, just like they were when they fought desegregation and gay marriage. Now you have to choose what side of history you come down on. You are the Board of Education, and I hope and also believe that knowledge is power. Kofi Annan said it best when he said, knowledge is power, information is liberating, education is the premise of progress in every society and every family. Please don't water down.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Christine DiVigili, I want to play something for you real fast. So, what y'all just heard right there, that's a riot that took place at Lehigh Senior High School. One of two that took place at a Lehigh school. And one was at Varsity Lakes Middle schoolers. There was what looked like a prison riot at Varsity Lakes Middle. And from your faces right now, it looks like y'all don't even know what I'm talking about. And that is pretty sad. I am sitting in here in a room that you have segregated. You have brought us back to ancient times. You have segregated us. And you wonder why you have riots in middle and high school. It is because of the decisions that you people have made. Do better.
I'm Susan, and you know who I am. Word in the teaching community is that gender support plans are being issued under the guise of 504s. Is this true? If so, the district is in violation of the Civil Rights Act, as this is a gross misuse of title funding and is not the intended use of a 504. While we're on the topic of 504s, in the last 12 months, how many children were denied 504 accommodations for behavioral or special needs? What about the kids with medical exemptions for masks? I can tell you from personal experience that our crisis units are overwrought with suicidal teenagers. Overwrought, and they're sent over to Golisano in holding until they can get to the crisis unit. This is all on you, and you should all be ashamed. Thank you.
Crystal Siscon, I am with the Southwest Florida Coalition for LGBTQ+ Youth. LGBTQ+ youth know that we, the LGBTQ adults and allies, strive to create safer schools and communities for you and with you. Know that as hard as we try, we cannot 100% eradicate the recklessness and cruelty found in often homophobic, racist, transphobic, anti-Black, anti-immigrant, and a pro-violence society. The forces attempting to suppress and eliminate the LGBTQ community are strong, and you probably already know this. It probably already lives on your skin. So what do we do now? We need to rally our GSAs, organize vigils in our schools, find solace in each other. We name our fears and our oppressors and all that must be changed. And we put pressure on school officials, city council people, senators, and other folks in positions of power. We take over bridges and we march for justice together. You are not alone. Thank you.
Will the following individuals please line up? Heather Boyle, Chris Tompkins, Tim Does, Crystal Vervey, Chris Quackenbush.
Good evening. My name is Carrie Lerner, and I am a graduate of Calusa Middle School, Cypress Lake High School, and Edison Community College. My roots in this community run deep. And I am here to speak to you, school board members, to remind you that yes, indeed, you are elected to represent your constituents, and you are elected to represent those more vulnerable among us, and you are also elected to provide leadership. When you adopted the best practices and actions for inclusivity with definitions there for all to see, you were acting as educators and you were acting in support of the LGBTQ community. I ask that you continue in that leadership role and not kowtow to verbal pitchforks and...
Thank you, ma'am. Next speaker, please.
Hello, I'm Willie Middleton, Vice President of the Lee County Democratic Black Caucus. I have been discriminated against in my younger days at school. I'm asking this school board to think what you're doing. These scars, these walls of discrimination and hatred does no one any good. Please follow best practice steps and look after our LGBT kids and trans kids. Make sure that they are protected. It does no good to keep listening to others that want to constantly keep mistreating others for no reason whatsoever. It's all about love and treating each other with respect. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Heather Boyle. I didn't finish the whole video earlier, but I did listen to part of the purchasing audit, and one of the parts that did concern me was that the school board allows purchases for $35,000 and under to be done at the school's discretion. I'm wondering how the amounts are being determined as far as the quantitative spending. Is there a separation of duties? Why is procurement not in charge of purchases up to $35,000? Also in the code of conduct, you mentioned restorative practices. Are parents involved in that? Who is determining what the practice will be and who is facilitating it? Is that counselors at the school? Is it administrators? And are they adequately qualified to do that? It was also mentioned the white paper will be replacing the equity poster. Is there going to be an example shown to parents before you are putting it up in schools like you did the equity poster last year? The critical support guide is also going to be replacing that, and the stakeholder input will be enlisted. My question is, who are considered?
Thank you, ma'am. Next speaker, please.
Crystal Vervate. So I watched the video from the meeting earlier today. I had to laugh a little bit about you guys saying that you're going to get parent input on the critical care guide. I was part of the COVID task force. You brought in, people, parents, teachers, school board members, teachers unions folks to get our input and collaborate, and then final decisions were made behind the curtain without anybody's input. Well, I'm sure the school board and some other, or the teachers union and some other folks, but if you do take parental, guidance and feedback, take it seriously. I mean, I'm here all the time. The people behind me are here all the time. And it seems like what we're saying is falling on deaf ears. So when are we going to start being taken seriously? Also, I'm hearing a lot of things around the LGBTQ community and high suicide rates. Are these practices that you guys are inputting, are they being benchmarked? Are they being effective? Or are they just a piece of paper to appease people to shut them up? Are you guys benchmarking that? How effective?
Ma'am, next speaker, please.
Ms. Quackenbush, where in the world did we get the district logo personal, passionate, and progressive? It has no relationship to the 3 R's, which is supposed to be your job. It seems to be at odds with the conservative sentiments of parents and citizens of Lee County as well that you represent, and our governor, Ron DeSantis. Last week in Naples, he said, quote, "Let me be clear, there is no room in our classroom for things like critical race theory." He said he wants, quote, "facts, not political ideologies." He will not allow our schools to teach kids to, quote, "hate our country and hate each other." Woke education, by extension, is teaching the kids to hate themselves. Thomas Sowell says the techniques of brainwashing developed in totalitarian countries are routinely used in psychological conditioning programs imposed on American school children. These include inducing acceptance of alternative values by psychological rather than rational means. All this has diverted our kids from hope, pride in our country, and education to depress and self-loathing. This district has gone rogue.
Speaker, please. Will the following individuals please line up? Carolyn Norris, Tara Jenner, Nancy Terry, Elizabeth Roper, Pamela Vasquez.
Chris Tompkins, LGBT Vice President, Democratic Caucus, member, Democratic Black Caucus, member, Southwest Florida Coalition for LGBTQ Kids. We don't live in a utopia. We live in a reality. And the reality is that LGBT kids are harmed, discriminated against, or mistakenly injured in our society. These guidelines work, they've been in place. We're not asking for something new here. We're asking you to continue doing what's right. We don't want harm coming to our children. We don't want harm coming to any children. All children deserve to be safe and secure in their surroundings. do the right thing, keep the best practices in place. It prevents childhood trauma and liability for all involved. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Tim Dews. I'm with the Southwest Florida Coalition in support of LGBT youth. Good evening. I am a lifelong gay man who has lived almost 60-some years as a gay man in many environments. This environment that we have today is as toxic as I've seen it. I am here to support the league, school districts, best practices, and the code of conduct. I don't see stepping back at this point. We're not here to support the revised version the board is considering, because it really isn't something that LGBT people can understand and identify with. You are being challenged by groups for political reasons, not the well-being of the children, just their political ambitions. Being LGBT is difficult at best.
Sir, thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good evening. My name is Carolyn Norris, and I'm president of the Lee County Democratic Black Caucus. I respectfully ask that the best practices and action steps remain in the Code of Conduct. It is my belief that excluding this section may prove detrimental to our LGBT children. However, when these practices are applied, it serves to enrich awareness of differences in this melting pot we call America. Removing this section from the Code of Conduct will have a negative impact on the self-esteem of our LGBT children during this difficult and delicate stage of their development. Taking away this support and not replacing it with something better will hamper the growth of our LGBT youth and their peers outside the LGBT community who are now learning to find balance, judgment skills, and decision-making during their informative years. Today, we live in an environment of heightened intolerances and insecurities. You or your child might be next.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hi, Elizabeth Roper. This seems to have started from an anti-bullying measure, and so I wanted to go along those lines. I know teachers who are afraid to speak up against this for fear of being fired and labeled a bigot. So who's being bullied here? I know of students who are afraid of speaking up for fear of being bullied and being labeled a bigot. I know that there are students and teachers alike that are both terrified of being labeled. So on March 22nd, it was said if a cisgendered student doesn't like being in the bathroom with a transgender student, they have a right to find another bathroom. That's true. They do have that right. But if they turn around and walk out of that bathroom because they're not comfortable, they're going to be labeled a bigot and a bully. And that is just not acceptable with me. So I kindly ask you to repeal this. Thank you.
Tara Jenner. In the Code of Conduct, there's specific language addressing invasive procedures, and this includes injectables. The superintendent just mentioned the COVID vaccine. 21 USC 360 applies. Merely mentioning in this forum that the COVID injections are voluntary is insufficient. The district has an affirmative duty prior to any injection that they make available to tell each individual that it is voluntary, it's experimental and not approved. There may be no encouragement to get the jab, and this includes gift cards or other incentives. And notice must be given of the significant known potential benefits and risks. Given the current environment where people are told to just wear the mask because you got to help everybody else out, that's a form of coercion, and I'm encouraging the board to recognize the fact that you need to get opt-in permission from parents.
Will the following individuals please line up? Francis Haas, Quentin Jusk, Francis Elmore, Ricardo Bocanegra, Paula Blair.
Hi, I'm Nancy Terreri, and I'm a member of the Southwest Florida Coalition for LGBTQ Youth. I'm here really listening to the board today. I was at the earlier meeting. I know the board is concerned for all students in Lee County and has repeatedly promised to protect our LGBTQ youth. If that's the case, I really advise the board to keep information on LGBTQ best practices readily available for all teachers and students. You decided the best place for this was the Code of Conduct. Now you've decided that the poster form didn't work, and I can understand that. But I suggest to you that you redo the format, that you put the same information or appropriate information into the policy, into the code that shows the policies and best practices. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Pamela, and I'm here with the Southwest Florida Coalition for LGBTQ plus youth. So while I'm not a former student of Lee County, I have sisters that have been and are, and it's the kind of hateful rhetoric that we're hearing now and unsafe spaces for students that has kept them out of in-person school. They didn't feel safe. I know something was brought up about sharing bathrooms with LGBT students. I'm not quite sure how people who are against that are planning on enforcing it. Are we having a genital inspection? Are we going to be trying to figure out whether or not someone is the gender that they are by looking at their genitals? It's just...
Thank you, ma'am. Next speaker, please.
Coalition for LGBTQ youth, and I am here to urge you to continue following the best practices in regards to the LGBTQ Code of Conduct issues that have been presented here. I am a parent of 2 current and 1 former Lee County School District students, and I know of no issues brought about by any of the LGBTQ students within the district. I am a nurse practitioner and a healthcare provider, and over the last year I've spent much of my time caring for patients, many of them with COVID-19, and I will say that there's talk of the board trying to follow the letter of the law at a minimum requirement. That's not how I wish to treat my patients. That's not how I wish my students in the district to be taught. Do your best.
Your next speaker.
Hi, my name is Frances Elmore, and I am a graduate of Florida Gulf Coast University, Dunbar High School, Varsity Lakes Middle School, and Pinewoods Elementary School. I have been in Fort Myers, Florida, as many years as I can be. And I'm currently studying to be a higher education professional. And when I talk to LGBT students that graduated from Lee County high schools, I want to stop hearing how hurt they are, and I want to stop hearing how hard it was to be trans in Lee County high schools, and I want to start hearing that their school admin helped them find what they needed, and that they felt loved, and that they didn't get rocks thrown at their heads, and that they didn't get fruit cups thrown at them, and that they felt safe. Because that is the bare minimum we should be doing for students. That is the bare minimum we should be doing for the future of Lee County and the future of the rest of the country. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Ricky Bocanegra. I'm here on behalf of the Southwest Florida LGBTQ Coalition for our LGBTQ youth. And this best practices is not binding. We are being asked to be treated respectfully. And I think you are seeing us as more of a people group than as individual students, but we are students. Can any LGBTQ kids in here raise their hands? See us, because we are here, we are loud, we told you we aren't going away, and if it isn't present by the nearly empty room, we're not going away anytime soon. We just want to be treated equally in schools. Best practices, we're just asking for the bare minimum here. We're not asking for anything binding, we're not asking for some sort of affirmative action. We are being very, very simple here. We just want to be able to trans students want to be able to use the bathroom of their choice, and LGBTQ students want to feel safer in their schools. This is the first step of being seen.
Thank you. Will the following individuals please line up? Beth Weiss, Gary Weiss, Christina Mays, Guinevere B.K., and Lucas Goldstein.
Hello, my name is Quentin, he, him. I am an alumni of North Fort Myers High School and a current student at FGCU. I'm also a member of the Southwest Florida Coalition for LGBTQ Youth. When I went to North Fort Myers High School, there wasn't really a best practices policy for LGBTQ youth. I spent those 4 years afraid to be myself and disconnected from my peers for this reason. And the students that I see sitting in front of me and the students that I know go to these schools deserve better than that. They deserve to feel safe. They deserve to feel connected to their peers and accepted. And they deserve to be able to use the bathroom. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Paula Blair. I sponsored the Gay Straight Alliance at Cypress Lake High School for 15 years. Over this time, I've had contact with many trans students. As a group, these students were among the most thoughtful, kind, and caring students I've known. Unfortunately, these children often had high absentee rates and low grades because every single day was a challenge. Just going to the bathroom was incredibly stressful, especially when they were denied access to the restroom where they felt most comfortable. Trans students have to constantly worry about not fitting in and being bullied, even by adults. These children are often anxious and depressed and have an extremely high suicide rate. Our school district has a duty to provide a loving and stable environment for these children. This code of conduct provides a framework for accepting these students so they feel safe coming to school during one of the most difficult periods of their lives.
Hi, I'm Beth Weiss. As a mother, a grandmother, and an art educator, I want to emphasize the importance of page 84 in the Lee County Schools Code of Conduct. The term color of law that comes to mind when viewing page 84 declares that it is a crime to deprive any person of any right protected by the Constitution and any law of the United States. The visual impact of the state of Florida as an inclusive rainbow of all safety for all students is so vitally important. As a teacher, my school encouraged me to post a welcoming rainbow outside of our classrooms to symbolize a safe haven for students who needed to talk about any issue that was important to them. The students understood the meaning of this visual language and often availed themselves of this opportunity. Page 84 expresses the same concept of safety and caring that all schools can provide for all students.
Thank you, ma'am. Next speaker, please.
I have a first grade granddaughter in the school system. I want her to learn that her schools advocate inclusion of all students. My daughter, my granddaughter's aunt, is a middle school counselor. She has shared with me the vulnerabilities of her trans student and what she has to do to help them. I have discussed this with educator, family, and friends. I've shown them the best practices, and the reaction of each of them has been that this is beautiful and advocates inclusion for all students in the community. It will benefit all students. They all ask, so what's the problem here? My response is that a group of politicians who neither know nor care anything about education are trying to make a name for themselves at the expense of our kids. Each of you are educators who have the responsibility for effective administration of our schools. I'm sure each of you know how much the best practices is needed in our community. It is why we elected you. Thank you. I'm with the Southwest Florida LGBT.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker, please.
Hello, my name is Christina Mays. I'm the mother of a Riversdale High School transgender child. The last time I went into any women's restroom, I thought they had private stalls. So if somebody's child is coming home and saying they saw a boy in the bathroom, that means that child was stall peeping. So which child is in the wrong? Which child needs to be reported? Most of these transgender children live in what is called a stealth lifestyle. That means they're afraid to let anybody know who they are, in fear of bullying and retaliation. My child refuses to go to the bathroom because somebody peeked under the stall on her. Is that wrong? You will not know who is in that bathroom unless you look. Most of these children, if I showed you the pictures, you would not be able to tell. My child fights to make sure she looks feminine. And look at her mother. I'm a straight, cisgender woman, but I am very tomboyish.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Will the following individuals please line up? Katie Ireland, Bennett Wilcoxon, Paul Newcomb, Mercedes Price Harry, Corey Dye.
Hello, my name is Lucas Goldstein. I got my bachelor's in Child and Youth Studies, and I'm going to be a teacher. I am in the FGCU Masters of Educational Leadership program, and I am with the Southwest Florida Coalition of LGBTQ+ Youth. If the Lee County School District mission is to make sure each child succeeds, you must give the children what they need to succeed, basic human rights. How can you expect your child to succeed and get an education if you do not even respect them? The goal of an educational leader is to be there for the students and give them a positive learning environment to thrive in. So let's start with our LGBTQ+ children. As a future educator, I will make it my mission to give these LGBTQ+ students the rights they need to thrive and learn. Thank you.
Hello there, I'm Guinevere Bortner-Canary. I go to Cypress Lake High School, and I am with the Southwest Florida Coalition for LGBT Youth. Trans and LGBT youth are not part of a trend. LGBT youth have been here all along, being bullied and killed for being who we are. I am asking that you think of all the trans and LGBT children who have committed suicide because of the things going against them in this world. Think for a second about how it might feel to be told that you do not deserve to live because of who you are. Think about how it might feel to be kicked out of your home and told you do not deserve love because of who you are. That is the truth that so many children have to deal with. Children deserve safe spaces, and I ask that you allow that. I ask that you allow the bare minimum and make sure that children feel safe while growing up in Lee County. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Katie Ireland, and I'm one of the founders of the PLDMS Identity Club, and I'm here on the topic of the Equality Florida poster. All students should be able to use restrooms and locker rooms that align with their gender identity. And this poster is a resource that teachers can use to help their trans students better. Removing this poster wouldn't make us exist less, it would just create more suffering for young queer people. And no matter how hard you try to remove things that make us feel safe, we won't go away. Being LGBTQ isn't a trend that only just now deserves accommodations. You just didn't see us before because a whole generation died of AIDS, and so many more stayed in the closet because of stigma. There is nothing I can do to make people care about their children and their children's queer peers, but I can point out the hypocrisy in endangering the lives of trans students with bigotry. We don't want to be fought over, we don't want to fight, and we don't want to cause problems. We just want to be kids.
Hi, my name is Bennett Wilcoxon, and I am one of the founders of the PLDMS Identity Club. I am in 8th grade. I am here in support of the trans community. If you get rid of the equality poster now, problems with the LGBTQ community will still be there. Keeping the poster would be a step in the right direction. School is a place where students are meant to learn and express themselves. Getting rid of this poster would limit the ability of teachers to aid their students. And if students can't deal with their own issues, how can we be expected to learn and grow as people? And I'm not the only one who has experienced this. Keeping the poster helps the community put up with their struggles, but if not for their own well-being of the time of the board. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Paul Newcomb. I'm a citizen of Lee County, have been for quite a few years, and as a citizen of this county, I've helped and nurtured 3 generations through the Lee County school system. There's been, I would just start off by saying I do not support the board's best practices or their actions on LGBTQ in the public school system. LGBTQ has been, and their community and their advocates have been supported financially by BLM and the supporters of critical race theory. One of the things that critical race theory talks about is that they want to take away from some, particularly whites, and give to others.
Thank you very much. Will the following individuals please line up? Daniela Dye, Melissa Hatter, Nzinga Gaines, Danielle Hagman.
Good evening, I'm Mercedes Price Harry. I just wanted to let Mrs. Gittens know that after 6 months I brought you the book, The Coddling of the American Mind, and I would be willing to buy it for every one of you if you would be interested in reading it. It talks a lot about how we got here today. I think you will enjoy it. I wanted to bring the book as well to point out that you can only control what you can control, which is yourselves and the judgments that you make. You cannot control how someone feels. You cannot control the fact that as teenagers we're confused and sometimes mean. And I wanted to point out that a poster will not determine somebody's validity or self-esteem. That's really up to parents. Sounds to me like the kids in the Lee County school system are very welcoming. And you, as of your March 22nd workshop, are too. Nonetheless, superintendent conversation, when it comes to NALT, I'd like to say a hard no. Thank you.
Corey Dye, I'm going to read for tone control. We believe all children need to be protected and given the best quality environment to which we hope they can all be successful in. This is supposed to be a nonpartisan body of government, but there sure seems to be a lot of democratic organizations pushing a political issue. Your non-discrimination policy covers all children. I hope none of this violence spoke of this evening occurred here in our schools, and if it does, you definitely need to be holding your staff accountable. What would the needy and low income of our community look like if they had this level of special interest, this level of leadership focused on them? What would District 5 look like if you had focused like this on those issues that affect all genders and pronouns? An entire community has been shut out of much of the benefits rest of us are awarded. How many children attend schools in a portable year after year? How many kids have never even enjoyed showing up their first day of school walking into a building?
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
My name is Daniela Dye. I am coming to you guys today to talk about the amount of items that you squeeze into each of these meetings. It is becoming more and more excessive, and I understand we're coming to the end of the school year, but there is definitely not adequate enough time to review the information and make an educated decision on any of these items. You guys are in the midst of a superintendent search as well, or an interim superintendent search, and it was 30 applications. It was 182 pages, I believe, we printed to go through all of the items. That is a lot of information that you had less than 48 hours to review. And now we have 16 items under consent, 6 under business services, 3 under human resources, 12 under operations. And I don't understand how we can make decisions on that many items in such a small amount of time, especially when they're of vast importance. I wanted to bring your attention to the superintendent search as well and say we need to really look at what we're doing going forward for the interim as we set our tone going forward for this.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Hi, I'm Melissa Hatter. I just want to say objection to a policy or change of code of conduct is not an objection or rejection to any student. God created us all the same. We are to love you all. I love any student as much as my student, regardless of their sexuality or how they identify. It's a policy we're opposing. It's not you. 60% of teens are bullied. 70% of teens have negative things said online about them. 61% of those are based on appearance, where 15% is based on sexuality. I'm not saying there's a problem. I'm saying there's a problem across the board, and we need to protect all of you.
My name is Nzinga Gaines. I'm a parent of a student at Paul Lawrence Dunbar Middle School. On Monday, my daughter was the victim of a meat check. She was in class, a young man called her over. He then stood up and punched her in the groin. I'm told that this is not only happening at her school, but other schools throughout the school district. The thing that I find alarming, aside from the fact that it happened, is the fact that other types of violence are taking place across the district. And that being said, I don't understand how it's okay for students to come back into class or come back to school and have to sit in, near, and with the people that have assaulted them. My overarching concern is that when I've called and I've reached out to the school, you can tell that I'm sick, every day last week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, to ask what the steps were so that all the students will be taken seriously and be safe. I was given, they can't tell me what happened to the kid. That's not what I asked. I will go up every rung of the ladder of accountability and responsibility.
Thank you, ma'am. Next speaker. No clapping, please.
Danielle Hagman, Southwest Florida Coalition for LGBTQ Youth. Today, I sit here before you as a disabled individual. When I leave my home and go about my daily life, there is one public bathroom I am able to use, and that's assuming it's not taken up by an able-bodied individual who prefers the space to a smaller stall that they can easily fit in. Nobody here, aside from myself and our allies and other transgender students and other disabled individuals, knows what it is like to be stressed out over something as simple as using a bathroom. This is called privilege. When you don't have to worry about something as simple as using a bathroom, it is called privilege. Bathroom use should not be a point of stress for anyone in a first world country, and conservative politics should not be dictating the safety of students who've lived in the shadows and periphery long enough. Support those who need the support. They have more than earned it.
Thank you. Madam Chair, that concludes public comments for this evening.
Thank you. I think I'm going to start with Ms. Gaines. Ms. Gaines, thank you for coming here, and I'm up here. And Dr. Atkins, if we can get her information and follow up on that one, that would be wonderful. Could you?
Yes, Madam Chair, we will.
Okay, we'll make sure we get your information. Okay. And then I want to thank all the students from whatever side you come here for, whatever point of view that you are here, for any student to come before this board and speak in the public. I know that's hard, and I really appreciate you all being here and speaking what your truth is to yourselves. Ms. Rober and all the other students from the different schools, I just want to let you know how much I appreciate that. And earlier I did say that our students in this county do have a voice. They are willing to speak on their voice, and tonight we see that again. So thank you for being here. As far as the code of conduct, we want everybody that comes to our school, that are in our schools, we want you all to feel safe. We don't want anybody to ever have to worry about not feeling safe. So that is definitely important to myself, and I know my colleagues as well. The code of conduct, we worked really hard on that for, goodness, 2019. Yeah, it was over a year with all the different people in the community, the different committees, advisory committees. I know a lot of people believe that that did not take place, but I know for a fact that it did take place because I was there at most of those. And going forward, we will be out in the community. And I hope that when we're out in all the areas, whether it's East Fort Myers, North Fort Myers, wherever those communities are, that we have this kind of turnout there to speak about what you feel. Because there are many times we are out in these communities and you might see two people, but we are there. So we will continue to do that. Mr. Bradley and everyone spoke about that today. We are going to be out there speaking to get your feedback and information. But going back to the code of conduct, when we brought that around and spoke about everybody, we went back and forth to make sure that we had everybody included in that code of conduct. And I understand the poster, regarding that poster, it was an Equality Florida poster, wasn't a Lee County poster. And so when we're going forward, and that was for a point of reference, when I think when that came into place. So I'm just giving a little bit of history because I was there. You know, we were all there, and I just wanted to put that out there. But we are steadily working. We're not taking anybody's rights away. We want to make sure that everybody is, protected under our code of conduct, and the district will, definitely make sure that that takes place. So many. Superintendent, could you please, Dr. Atkins, speak on, I heard again about the vaccines, even though you did say that it's a voluntary thing, and we are doing this to putting it out there for our community. So if those who want to be vaccinated or need a place to go, we're bringing it to you, and we're not, that Lee Health is, but we're giving you an opportunity to have it. Nobody's telling anybody to do this. No one's forcing anyone, but it is a place for you to go if you need to, just like the churches are doing it and everybody else. But Dr. Atkins, can you please?
Again, it's to allow Lee Health to provide COVID vaccines to students and staff and members, just like they do the testing now, and it is completely voluntary. And in terms of all the proper notifications, that's something that I'm sure Lee Health will take care of. So I don't have any concern with that. They have been excellent partners and have really done a great job helping us through this pandemic.
Thank you. And then someone had spoke about the $35,000 regarding the procurement. I know that was corrected because it was misunderstood that it was individual schools could spend up to that. Could you clarify that one as well?
I know that the overall amount, in terms of what the basic guidelines are, you have an amount for schools, which you just mentioned, then you have $50,000, which is here, and then over that requires board action and approval. And when you approve an amount, that is the total amount. So you have to divide that up amongst the different schools within the district. So I think in this case you were talking about priority 1 marketing, I believe. I'm not certain on that, but if there's an account for that all schools could utilize, the board is approving just up to a certain level, and we can't go above that because you've got multiple sites that go higher, so we have to monitor that as we go through the expenditures throughout the year.
Thank you. I just wanted clarification that it wasn't an individual school that can just have carte blanche to spend that up to that amount of money.
Right.
And then something else. And Ms. Dye, you are right. We do have so much that we put into these meetings lately because there's so much that has to happen. And I know we find ourselves being tasked at, being here sometimes 8 o'clock at night because we know that we have to read, we have to do, get this stuff done. And that will be coming up later as far as, the timing for maybe making for the interim superintendent and giving us a little bit longer time to digest all of that information so that way we can come up with the right solution for that as well. But again, I just thank everybody for being here. We do appreciate it. And, we want to hear your input. So thank you for that. And we do get it via email, here, phone calls. So I know I read them, and I'm sure the other members up here, they read them as well. So I thank you very much. Okay. The next on the agenda is the approval of the action items under the agenda under consent. The documentation for action items listed under consent is made available to board members 7 business days prior to the board meeting. We are expected to review all the materials, and we have an opportunity to speak with the superintendent with any questions we may have regarding the recommendations. Some of these items have also been briefed or workshopped with the board in advance of appearing on the action agenda. Board members, are there any agenda items you wish to pull for discussion under unfinished business table items portion of the agenda? Ms. Giovanelli's not here. Ms. Patrica?
No, thank you.
Ms. Fisher?
I have no polls, thank you.
Ms. Gittens?
I have 2. The monthly budget report for the period ending April 30th, 2021, and L10, approval of piggyback with Suwannee County School District RFP 2209 for panelized modular buildings.
And Ms. Vaughn?
I do not.
Thank you. Ms. Morgan?
I have none.
And I have none. Is there a motion to approve the agenda consent action items with the exceptions of the pulled items I2 and L10? Ms. Vaughn?
I move to put forth the consent items with the exception of I2 and L10.
Thank you. May I have a second? Ms. Gittens?
A second.
Thank you. Okay, and please record your vote.
Wrong spot, sorry.
Ms. Roman?
Mine is not coming up.
Ms. Roman, is it coming up or do you need a hand? Okay, there you go. Everybody should have it up now.
There it is.
Has everyone voted?
Madam Chair.
I'm sorry?
One moment, please.
Can we just get a hand vote on this, please? Ms. Patrica?
Aye.
Ms. Fisher?
Aye.
Ms. Gittens?
Aye.
Ms. Vaughn?
Aye.
Ms. Morgan?
Aye.
And aye. 6-0 passes.
And Madam Chair, if you approve the consent agenda, I have a personnel one to introduce.
Oh, thank you. I totally skipped right over that, did I not?
So thank you. So I'd like to introduce Kimberly Sass from Trafalgar Middle Behavior Specialist, School Intervention Support Specialist to Accountability Research Assessment Coordinator, Continuous Improvement. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we will continue on to, we have 2 pulled items to address. And let's see, Dr. Atkins, please read your recommendation for pulled item I2.
I2?
Yes, please.
That is approval of the monthly budget report for the period ending April 30th, 2021.
Okay. Is there a motion to adopt Dr. Atkins' recommendation? Ms. Morgan?
I move we adopt the superintendent's recommendation for the monthly budget report for the period ending April 30th, 2021.
Thank you. Second that. Second by Ms. Fisher. Thank you. Okay, this item has been moved by Ms. Morgan and seconded by Ms. Fisher. Is there any discussion? Ms. Gittens, I'm going to open it to you, please.
Okay, thank you. I mentioned at the last meeting that I do not intend to vote in the affirmative for any capital reports until we look at our priorities for some of the areas that are much in need. I feel that we're doing more, moving forward with areas of future growth rather than current need. And I do not want to be caught like I was before and bringing up an issue and then later on being told, well, you voted on it. So I will not vote on capital items until I see some resolution in that. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion regarding this?
And can I say one more thing?
Go ahead, Ms. Gittens.
This afternoon, it was very concerning to me, and I brought it up in discussion, that we are looking to build a 72 million is what was said, but it was, I've also heard 75 million K through 8 in Estero, and that's the current cost. And we were informed that it could be anywhere from 20 to 30% increase because of cost of items. And I asked the question, at what point do we figure it's too much? And crunching the numbers, the current costs between 72, even at the 72 million, 30% increase is $21.6 million. So we could look at a possible cost of $93.6 million for a K through 8. And with the need in other areas of the county, I just can't of good faith agree to move forward on some of these items until we look at the areas that have such a significant need.
Okay. Are there any other comments? Ms. Fisher?
Yeah, I just want to comment that this is a monthly budget report, and the budgets have already been approved and revised, and this merely tells us our year-to-date spending and our outstanding encumbrance and our balance. So I'll be supporting this.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay. Seeing no other comments, and thank you, Ms. Fisher, for stating that, because that's exactly what the balance sheet, so I appreciate that. And I understand your concerns too, Ms. Gittens, but we are trying to make sure we build as quickly as we can build, and looking forward to Franklin Park being one of them. So I will go ahead and then ask for the vote, and this will be a hand vote on this. So if you can just, and I'm just going to go around because I know people cannot see everybody as at this point, but at our next meeting, everybody will be back up here on the dais so that everybody will be visible on the screen. Ms. Morgan?
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn?
Yes.
Ms. Gittens?
No.
Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
Ms. Patrica?
Aye.
And yes for myself, so motion carries 5-1. Okay, now, Dr. Atkins, can you please read your recommendation on the pulled item L10?
Yes, recommended action, approval of the piggyback with Suwannee County District RFP for type 2B panelized modular buildings award to Mobile Modular Management Corporation for the period of July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022, an estimated expenditure of $350,000 with an option to cancel if deemed to be in the best interest of the district. Approval authorizes the superintendent to execute all related documents.
Thank you. You have heard Dr. Atkins' recommendation. Is there a motion to adopt Dr. Atkins' recommendation on L10? Board members? I'm sorry, Ms. Vaughn?
I move to adopt Dr. Atkins' recommendation on L10.
Thank you. Second, please. Ms. Morgan? Thank you. It has been moved by Ms. Vaughn and seconded by Ms. Morgan. Is there any discussion? And Ms. Gittens, I will turn that back over to you because that was your poll, please.
Okay, and again, and it's just my personal opinion, anything that has to do with the financial expenditure for portables in Lee County, I will not support. I do know that this was discussed yesterday, and I was told this afternoon. Well, yesterday we were told that this is a new company. And I was told this afternoon that actually it is the same company that we are using presently. My concern still is, have we looked at our priorities? Have we looked at a way out of portables as opposed to spending $350,000 to stay in portables? And you may think I don't understand. I do understand. And I have questions about it that for going on 3 years have not been answered. And so it's a matter of principle for me.
Thank you. Are there any other, Ms. Vaughn?
Yeah, I feel like I am going to support this, but I do so with hesitation because I am very much against how many portables we use in this county. And I know I've talked with Dr. Atkins on several occasions about my own feelings about how we open our schools with the soft opening and bring in, for the last 2 high schools that we opened, I don't even know how many portables, like Portable City. And I look at expenditures that we have, for instance, Mr. Rickenbacker talking about the canopies are being finished in some of the schools which lack them. And, you know, it's not just with the portables, it's not just, here's a building and it just kind of gets plopped on a piece of ground. No, I mean, you have to, there are all kinds of, you have to have sidewalks and canopies, and the buildings are not good investments because they deteriorate. I guess it's kind of like a car at a certain point. They're worth almost nothing, and yet we still have to fix them. That said, and saying, I understand what Ms. Gittens is saying. I spent one terrible semester one time teaching in a portable, and it's kind of like you're ostracized. There was a portable city in a growing district, not here, but you know, there's safety concerns and you know, so many aspects, so many costs that go along with the portables, and then when you have to move them, there's those costs too. So I'm just going to say that I know we need seats, we need student stations, we use some of our portables like at Bonita Elementary for office space because of the situation there. But I will go on record one more time with my disapproval in general of I would say way too much use of portables in the school district.
Thank you. Dr. Atkins, please.
I just need to, for the public, I know the board has been apprised of this, but we forget that we had a tremendous cut in our capital budget of over $200 million, that we were operating with a much smaller reduced budget, of which you have to try to build schools and maintain our schools and add technology and security upgrades, all of that on a tremendously reduced budget. So 300+ million down to a little over 100 million over the course of a 10-year period of time. That's what we're dealing with. So just in 2018, we passed the half-penny sales tax. So we are in catch-up mode. We also forget that in Cape Coral and other places in the county, we also had many portables that we had to deal with, and gradually we were able to catch up with the growth in the Cape Coral back in the mid-2000s. And fortunately, we've been able to do that, but the shift has gone rapidly to the east after the recession when our funding went down tremendously. The other thing is I need to point out is that these are leased, so they don't count against our inventory. Remember, the district made decisions to purchase portables years ago. That counts against our inventory, so we just have so much capacity, and we're not allowed to build certain amount. We're not allowed to build to that level, which is what, for example, with we had to build that at that level because that's what the capacity allowed for at that time. You're leasing them, it doesn't count against our capacity. And then finally, just want to say I did spend 2 wonderful years in a modular building to start my career. I understand some teachers like it, some teachers don't. We used to have portables on the green here. Wasn't ideal, but it's what we had to do as a district. And the operations team does have a plan to try to move us in the direction of not utilizing the number of portables that we currently have. We're just in catch-up mode.
Right, well, thank you for that. And of course, this is up to, so it's not saying that we're going to go out there and spend this money. And also, I know, unfortunately, there is always going to be a need for that as we go forward with the building of, I'm going to say it again, Franklin Park. So when that school is being built, we have to locate those children someplace, not in a building because that building's coming down. So those children will, be placed somewhere until we can then bring them back into a brand new building for them. So I understand that, there is a need, and I wish that we could get them out, quicker than we can, but we have revenue coming in now, and we are working on that going forward. Ms. Fisher?
So this vote this evening is merely to approve piggybacking with Suwannee County School District so that we can get the best price available, as explained by Mr. Rickenbacker. And the building is not like the picture of the old-fashioned portable. It's the panelized modular building, and I took the time to research that, and it's actually an on-the-ground building with a whole different safety composite. So I think that maybe we're missing the point, but what we're voting on is the piggyback of the bid. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fisher. Ms. Gittens?
Okay, and thank you for that, Ms. Fisher. I too looked into the modulars. In fact, I spoke with the modular company, and they were explaining all that we do with that. So I do understand that the new ones do look different. However, listening with the superintendent, and no offense to anyone, but in the last 20 years, 66% of the growth has been in the East Zone, and a much lesser amount in the other zones. And 28%, which is the lowest percentage of the tax, has been of the half-cent tax money has been spent in the East Zone. So I'm just saying those figures there, the facts and the figures. I understand that it's a piggyback. And I also understand, people have said quite a bit, we must have these, and in other areas we've had the portable cities. When Bonita Springs was being built, the portables that were down there do not look like the portables that are in the East Zone. When the West Zone had their portable city, they did not look like the portables that these students are in right now. It's just, to me, it's unacceptable, and it goes back to our priorities. I understand that there's growth all over, but when you really look at the numbers, most of the growth is in one area, and it's being overlooked to put buildings in other areas that do not have the same amount of growth. And it's just a personal thing to me. Until we can see a plan, approve some type of a plan, we're just kicking the can down the road, and I just cannot support it.
Thank you. No, thank you. Ms. Vaughn?
I just wanted to make a quick clarification. I'm not judging on what portables look like in one place or another. I just never, since I've been on this board, missed an opportunity to criticize our overuse of portables, and especially the way that Lee County does the soft openings. And I know it's I've seen it done several times in another state without that, and I've heard the arguments for and against, and you'll just never convince me that it's the best way to go. So I just
Thank you, Ms.
got
Vaughn.
compelled.
Dr. Atkins?
You know, and I understand, Ms. Vaughn, but I do want to say something just anecdotally this year that we saw happen. We did do the soft opening at Gateway High School, yes, with getting the freshman class. And then we tried really hard to go full bore opening at Gateway High School all the way through the senior class. They didn't want to come. If you look at the juniors and the seniors, so we could not equip a full senior class nor even a full junior class, so we had to make adjustments. So that's the thing, when a student gets at a school, they want to stay at a school all the way through graduation. And Nikita, to her credit, you know, she came and saw me, and I kept remembering what Ms. Vaughn was telling me and what the board, I felt, wanted us to do. So we went full bore against her better wishes. And, you know, I will have to say, she, as it relates to the seniors, you know, we really couldn't equip a senior class at that school. And the problem, too, that you have to deal with when you can't get as many seniors there or juniors there is you're not able to offer all those upper level classes, as you're very familiar with as a former high school teacher, because you just don't have the teaching staff to support it, because you don't have the number of students to support the class. So that's part of what goes into some of these decisions. I understand we're on either side of that issue, and I've come to accept it, but I just think let's hear both sides, and then let them, everyone else can decide for themselves, right?
If I can I say one thing to that?
Please, go ahead.
Yeah, I know about the senior thing, and we could debate it, we have, and it's not appropriate at this point, but no, of course, the seniors don't want to leave their home schools, and the incidents that I saw were not that way, but I could talk more about it, but it's not appropriate, so I'm done.
Thank you. Well, so we will go ahead and move on to the vote then. And this is, again, a hand vote as well. So, Ms. Morgan?
Aye.
Ms. Vaughn?
Yes.
Ms. Gittens?
No.
Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
Ms. Patrica?
Aye.
And yes for myself. So motion carries 5-1. Thank you. So we have attorney's recommendation, none. Next on our agenda, Ms. Giovanelli, we are missing her today. She's traveling. Ms. Patrica?
I thought RSM was coming as an attorney recommendation.
RSM said they were not ready. They needed to process the changes, and then they will send it back to us.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I should have asked that question through the chair. Thank you, Attorney Bruno, for responding. I am going to go as fast through these comments as humanly possible, but I'm not going to see you for a while, so I've got to get through them. I watched the rest of yesterday's meeting, and there was no discussion regarding a writing prompt for our group interview. Is there any interest on the board of having a writing prompt? I don't think we need to do an official vote. Can we just direct staff to get that ready? Or do we have to have an official vote on that?
At least board consensus to see how the board is, if they want to do that, and then we can, I can work with Mr. Cashman.
Okay. Is there consensus that you would like a writing prompt or a writing sample? Are those?
I have a comment.
Okay, Ms. Vaughn?
Yeah. I'm going to say no on a writing prompt for an interim. That may be something that when we have our national search company, it may be something that they recommend for our permanent superintendent. But again, there's a lot of well, of course, there's a lot of subjectivity to all of it. even though we have done our best to come up with a rubric to kind of keep all of us on a similar page anyway, and we're going to be checking references, and we've already eliminated a couple people that looked good on paper, but I think in part the success of the writing prompt is going to in part depend on the person's background. Now, I could do a lovely writing prompt because I taught English all those years, and I know where the commas go and all of that. But I just really feel that it's not a necessary step for us to do with 5 people and all the other things that we're doing to screen each of these candidates. So I'm going to oppose the idea.
Thank you. Ms. Gittens, and then Ms. Morgan.
Okay, I'm kind of on the fence by it because I had a conversation earlier with Ms. Stillwell today. We were talking about the timing, if we're going to be doing interviews on 2 days and what the other candidates would be doing. So it could be relevant that while others are being interviewed, they could do the writing prompt. Although I actually think it's very subjective as well, and I'm not sure that for the interim that we need it. But if it's a time thing to, give them something to do while we're going through this whole process, I'm kind of on the fence with that.
Okay. Ms. Morgan? Thank you, Ms. Gittens.
Well, I think particularly when we're dealing with someone that we don't know that well, someone who doesn't know us that well, I would like to see how they structure an argument or a conversation or something that we need to know. I mean, I would like to see them asked to write about something that indicates how they would communicate with us and with the community in writing. I think it's important to see how articulate a message can be framed. So I would like to see a writing prompt.
Thank you. Go ahead, Ms. Gittens.
Just one more thing, and like I said, I was talking to Ms. Stillwell this morning about the timing, and we're going to have a very, very, very short turnaround in order to get this all done. And I don't know, she did say that there is already a rubric and they can provide prompts and all of that.
And that will come up too. That's going to come up.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Ms. Fisher, did you have any comments or regarding what Ms. Patrica?
I could write a really good argument or essay, but I wouldn't qualify to be the superintendent of schools. I'll live with the majority.
Okay, so I guess we could take a consensus on that then.
May I make some comments, please?
Oh, please.
It's really important to me to see someone's ability to write under pressure. So I would ask that the board please allow this as part of my ability to make a decision about who's going to serve as the interim. Those are my comments. Thank you.
And Ms. Dupree-Bruno, you had something to add to that?
Yes, since we're in an action meeting, can we go ahead and take the formal vote? Please.
I move that we solicit a writing sample as part of the interview process for the interim superintendent.
Second. Thank you.
You have a hand.
Ms. Vaughn.
Well, I'm not prepared to make that judgment without looking into how much that really is going to be a judgment on the person that we choose. And I'm not going to go just because it means something. Hey, there's a lot of stuff that means a lot to me that never gets past the board. It's got to be a better argument than that. And I know Dr. Atkins knows how to write, and so do many of the others, but let's be honest. secretaries and communications people, you know, the high-level executive may do some writing, but I dare say that most of that writing, unless it's from the world of academia, and, you know, that's a whole different story if it's academic, we'll go through a process, and I dare say that some of the speeches are never written by the CEOs because they are so darn busy with budgets and meetings with, you know, leadership things that many of the items are done by somebody from communications department or a chief of staff or somebody like that. I'm not ready to vote unless I could take a look at, you know, well, what kinds of things would it be? What, you know, ideas about, well, what kind of prompt would we have? How long would the prompt be? We're going to read 5 of them in addition to what we're doing, and to really do a good job on 5 essays that will probably be at least several pages long. That's a long process, and I just don't see for the process for the person and the process for us in making judgments that it's going to really tell a story. And again, if it's something that's a common practice, I wouldn't oppose it perhaps for a permanent superintendent, but I don't support it.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? And so now, Mr. Pre-Bruno, do we have to open this for public comments?
Yes.
Don't
Yes.
we have to have a motion?
We have a motions on the table.
Oh, okay.
We've had discussion, and our discussion is over. And now, because it is an action item, we have to open it to public comments. And the public comments would be those speaking on just this one topic.
The motion to have a writing prompt, moved by Ms. Patrica, seconded by Ms. Morgan.
Thank you. So do we need cards for everyone to fill out a card?
If anyone would like to make a public comment, please line up at the microphone.
Daniela Dye, I wanted to speak on the written portion. I think that written communication is extremely important. I think that we agreed previously as a board that we were going to use the cover letter for that function, and it wasn't going to be an additional focus in the actual interview process. But I do agree that if you're going to go ahead and I think it's important, but if it's going to be reviewed, it should be already part of what you were discussing in the rubrics or added to that particular meeting when we have that discussed. Speak to Mr. Cashman about that, to get that added.
Christine DiVigili again. I agree. I sat in the meeting with you guys when you all talked about this before, and you talked about how you're going to use the cover letter, you know, to make those assessments. And now we're sitting here having another conversation, wasting how much more time, you know, out of everyone else's schedules here to go over the same thing again. So I think we should just stick with what we talked about before, especially considering Mr. Cashman isn't here. He's supposed to be facilitating these conversations. I don't even know why we're talking about this right now without him present. But I definitely agree that I think you guys have this portion of it already under control, and it doesn't need any more control. Thank you.
Hi, Chris Tompkins here. I'd like to support Chris Patrica in her request. I think it's important that we know who's coming in to basically be a superintendent over our children. I know we don't have a long time for this person to be here, but for the time that that person is here, and while you're looking for someone else, their role is important, and that person could also be the person that continues on. So I support what Chris Patrica is suggesting and voting or recommending for a vote. Thank you.
Thank you.
Corey Dye, stick to the process. You guys voted on it. You even paid somebody to come help you make it. Right? Let's stick to the process. You can uncover your ear. You okay, Patrika? I'll talk quieter for you, Miss Patrika. A board member covering their ears. Wow. You guys had a process. You went to length about the importance of the first impression on the cover letter. Like, you guys spent quite a bit of time discussing that and the value of that. Obviously, you were extremely impressed at somebody's cover letter. All of you guys raved. Dr. Savage, and he took the opportunity to make the impression. So I think you guys just stick to the process, continue to truck forward and work hard. You guys are doing a good job.
Okay. Is there any other comments? Seeing no comments, we will then call for the vote. And I just want to add one thing. I do know that Mr. Cashman did have writing samples, right? Mr. Pre-Bruno?
I don't recall who had writing samples. I know that there were additional materials that was provided, but I can't recall who had them. But I believe everyone did have the cover letter that was requested.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so this will be a hand vote again. Please, so we will go down the list. I'm going to start with, well, I'll start this way.
Oh.
Ms. Patrika?
Aye.
Ms. Fisher?
No, thank you.
Ms. Gittens?
No, thank you.
Ms. Vaughn?
No.
Ms. Morgan?
Aye.
And I'm going to stick with what we had said, no. So motion does not carry.
Okay, so Dr. Atkins, may I continue with my comments, please?
Yes, please.
Dr. Atkins, can we get some information surrounding data for mental health incidents for our students through the pandemic? What has the impact of increased absenteeism been? What was the impact of quarantines? What happens? Is any compensation being made by the schools for that increased absenteeism? And then just sort of separate questions, what happens when a student misses the FSA and the makeup FSA? What is the fallout for that child, for that teacher, for that class? Just some general information. I think as we're coming out of this, it might be helpful for me to look at that data, or for us to look at that data to see what kinds of changes we need to make for next year. Mr. Dye, you have an incredibly loud voice, and I have a splitting headache. So it hurts for me to hear you speak right now. So I apologize if you took that as a personal affront, but it literally hurts me right now. I had a wonderful, wonderful opportunity yesterday to be on a call with the U.S. Secretary of Education, Miguel Cardona, and the call illustrated for me a couple of things. First of all, education truly is nonpartisan. I really liked Secretary DeVos because I didn't listen to what the news outlets told me to think about what she said. I listened to her words, and to me her words were competition in education is necessary because competition breeds excellence. And we see that in our high schools in Lee County all the time. Those principals in those high schools are fighting each other hard to be the most selected. And because of that, they take great pride in their buildings and they work really hard to make their schools the best. And that's all I think DeVos was after. Now, if you ask the Democrats what they thought of her, they hated her. If you ask the Republicans, they loved her. But I don't look at education through the lens of the Republican or the Democrat perspective. I look at it from the perspective of what's best for kids. And Miguel is a parent. He's got kids in schools. And we didn't have that in the previous Secretary of Education. So I think that's a refreshing perspective. The other thing I want you to realize is he asked one question for feedback from school board members. Again, this was school board members across the country. The question was, how can we reopen schools? That was the question that he asked of school board members across the country. How can we reopen schools? How can we get schools open in time for summer? as we sit here finishing a full school year where every classroom was open to every student face-to-face throughout the year. So again, congratulations to our staff for pulling that off. FHSAA state championships were held this past weekend in Fort Myers, and as always, and I will go to a Lee County Commission meeting to tell them what a wonderful job their recreation staff does. Top-notch across the state. Lee County is always considered amongst the best. But the most amazing thing was Stoneman Douglas won state championship 5-1. And the freshmen who were in that building were on that team. And the score was 1-1 going into the sixth, and Stoneman pulled ahead 5-1. And every administrator from Stoneman Douglas was there, and it was only the athletic director from the other school that was there. And I was talking to him afterwards, and I said, you weren't playing a baseball team, you were playing a baseball team with angels on their shoulders. And he was like, I know, you can't, you know, the kids were sad that they lost, but the overall recognition of what those kids went through and have been through in their high school career, it was an amazing experience to be able to sit there and watch that play out. A few more things. Bonita Springs High School Senior Awards Night. You would have, Dr. Atkins, you would have been so proud. I was proud as a board member, and I didn't mentor this guy or bring this guy along, but Principal Estes, I remember sitting in this room getting a briefing from him when he sat and he told the board his vision for Bonita Springs High School and how he wanted to create the culture for the school that would serve his own family. And to see him go from that to the leader that I saw at that award ceremony was just, it was fantastic. I was very, very proud, very, very proud. We had our first district career tech signing ceremony. Many of you were there. Thank you to My Shower Door for sponsoring that, spearheading that, and offering their property for us to be able to have that. I mean, honest to God and true, when they finished the last word, that's when the rain started. Like, God was definitely on our shoulder for that. I did speak at the Leadership Academy for the Bonita Estero Association of Realtors, and they are a fantastic group. They really seem to understand our system very well. They had a lot of questions, obviously, surrounding a lot of the things that are going on, but a very supportive group, and they have officially come out and supported the location of the school on Three Oaks, so they're showing their support to the Village Council. Dr. Atkins and staff did a fantastic job at the state of our schools, as usual. I would have personally liked to see more fanfare, given the fact that it was your last one, Dr. Atkins. I was a little bit disappointed that you weren't more celebrated, but I will celebrate you personally as you walk out the door, so get ready for some accolades during my public comments throughout the month of June. I'm wondering about training. We, as a board, if we could put this in the parking lot, please, of things for the board to discuss about a workshop. We had training on LGBT, but that was provided from one perspective. I know that there's another perspective. So I wonder if we can receive training from another perspective. And also, I'm interested in knowing what kind of training staff is attending on this issue, and whether they're getting a broad breadth of training or it's just one-sided training. Perhaps you could provide that information in a board update, Dr. Atkins, please. I think the board is getting away a little bit from our agreed-upon protocols, from following our agreed-upon protocols, and I just wanted to mention that. Thank you to board chair and to Ms. Roman and Attorney Dupree Bruno for working to make it so that I didn't have to pull that resolution. And finally, I don't think it does any good to compliment someone behind their back. Ms. Roman, I was telling Dr. Atkins earlier how fantastic you are. I trust you. Your level of work has been incredibly high. You keep my schedule straight, which I think is very difficult to do. And Ms. Johnson and Ms. Reeder, incredibly, incredibly difficult to replace because they have a special place in my heart, but you're doing a fantastic job, and I really, really appreciate you. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to jump over to Ms. Morgan. I'm going to really mess you up today.
And I have none.
Oh, okay. Ms. Fisher. Thank you, Ms. Morgan.
And I have one. It's a quote. Tolerance is the positive and cordial effort to understand another's beliefs, practices, and habits without necessarily sharing or accepting them. And the author of that is Joseph Osborne. And I'll close with peace begins with tolerance and respect for everyone.
Thank you, Ms. Fisher.
Thank you.
And Ms. Vaughn?
Yeah, I need to ask a question. Ms. Roman, were those pictures?
Oh, I am so sorry. Jason, I
No, we're good.
apologize because I forget that you do it in order and I just messed you up, didn't I?
Well, while he's, oh, there they are.
Thank you.
Okay, several of us attended the Student Advisory Committee, and it's always a pleasure to hear how poised our kids are, and it's another reason why I love when the students come here and speak at the microphone, because I think sometimes we don't recognize these young adults and the fact that as young adults, they're not just clones of their parents. At a certain point, they have their own points of view, and we see that here in the boardroom. We also see it in the student advisory. The focus of the meeting, and you've seen the different officers that are around at the tables, like in this one, speaking with the children. It was organized by our executive director, Dave Newland, and he brought in from, Cape Coral and the city of Fort Myers, some officers, and
Lee County.
that, I don't think the sheriff, is that sheriff's department? Okay, so, anyway, he brought in various people. You will also see in one of the pictures that although we had a lot of students face-to-face in attendance, we are having students appear on Zoom, and they can participate. As a matter of fact, they were part of a discussion led by the officer that you saw at that table. And I think it was very, very productive for the kids, and also I think it's just another opportunity for our law enforcement officers to learn, well, what is it that really concerns our kids? What do they worry about? All of those things. So it's just, it was a great opportunity for all of them. Another important aspect of that meeting was that the students voted that they wanted to have meetings, and of course, we started very late this year. What was the month, Ms. Fisher? March?
Yes, March.
Was I think the first meeting. And so there really wasn't an opportunity to get as much done as in prior years, but the students voted to have a meeting in June, skip July since it's a month when everybody's traveling, and have the first meeting of the new school year in August. So they made that decision. They wanted to continue to meet, and it's wonderful that we can have students on the Zoom as well, because we do have some students, some of the older students, and we do have middle school as well as high school students. Some of the older students either drive themselves, or some of the kids may have a friend or an older sibling or a parent that's available. But when the meeting starts at 6 o'clock, we have a lot of kids that just aren't available. There's no way for them to have the transportation. So I'm just really pleased with the group, and I look forward to, we're going to be rotating, that each of us will be like the introduction, which really isn't much beyond hello, welcome, and that sort of thing. And all of us can go to any of the meetings. So it's going to be a little bit different, and we have a great group of kids. Also went to the state of our schools, great breakfast, great program. I have to send my best wishes to all of our teachers as we're entering these really last days. It is maybe one of the things I was thinking about when we're talking about those essays, the writing samples, was my days of grading all of those, and especially with the pandemic, the teachers have had to be more flexible in accepting assignments because we've had kids that were in school and then they got quarantined and then they got sick. I know my own grandson has had some catching up to do because he did get sick and was unable to keep up. And so the worst thing for teachers, I mean, it's hard grading papers, but when you have assignments that are representative of 12 different assignments, all with different grading keys and all of that, it's just a really stressful time. So my very best wishes to the teachers and, of course, to all of the school-based staff that will very soon be going on a significantly shortened summer vacation, but it's a vacation nonetheless. Let's see. I have to respond to a couple things Ms. Patrica said. The training, the LGBT training from another perspective, that's something we're going to have to discuss. I guess it's on the board, it's going to be on an agenda, but as far as I'm concerned, there's one perspective, and it's a perspective that we as educators need to pay attention to, and it has to do with factual information, and so, I'll be open to listening, but I can't imagine what other perspective might be shared regarding some of those things. And of course, I'm a very partisan person, and if you really think education's nonpartisan, go up north and take a look at the kind of funding education gets in some other more, I'll say the L word, liberal states. Take a look at academic freedom under some administrations versus other administrations. Take a look at textbook developments and the development of standards. And we're seeing that right now. We're seeing some interesting changes, and some of you will be loving the changes that the Governor DeSantis is embracing, and others of us not so much. So the one thing that is nonpartisan, or at least it should be about education, is the children. And I'm not going to say that the other side of the aisle for me doesn't love the children and want to do what's best for the children. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is approaches to education are very, very different. And I've seen it in, I've seen it in many different aspects in a couple different states. So anyway, that's all I have to say for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Gittens?
Okay, I'll start with the heavy and work my way to the light. It won't take too long. I've gotten a lot of questions, and people were interested in what happened to the letter that I sent to the governor, and as of yesterday, the board, as well as myself, received a letter and I'll just read portions so you'll understand that I can't say anything other than this. It's to advise that the Florida Department of Education and the Office of Inspector General is in the process of reviewing several complaints regarding the Lee County School District. The office will finish initial interviews, summaries, and review additional documentation, as well as documentation that was requested to properly address the complaint determination. As I stated before, there has not been a determination on the complaint. No one has been accused, no cases have been filed. In accordance with Section 10120 Florida statutes, under certain conditions, the FDOE and OIG is responsible for conducting, coordinating, and requesting investigations into allegations of waste, fraud, financial mismanagement within the school district, and our initial review of the complaints reviewed remains open and ongoing. So this is what the board received, this is what I received, and as I had said before, I found it troubling that so many people were working so hard to look through my emails, et cetera, to get a copy of the complaint that I sent when there was no determination made. So there is still no determination made, and no one has been, accused or whatever of anything. So I wanted to put that to rest. I have to say I was disturbed this afternoon after our first meeting when a student left in tears because they were afraid. They were afraid of some of the comments that had been made by the audience, and they just did not feel safe. Our job is to make students feel and be safe. We talk about comments that are made in this room. Yes, you have freedom of speech. You can say within reason whatever you want. Attorney Bruno did mention in her comments earlier, there are children present, there are students present. We have to be mindful of how we speak and what we say, and consider that we could be affecting someone who feels vulnerable and cannot protect themselves. And I'm just asking all the adults within earshot or that will listen to this on tape, please remember our responsibility as adults to keep children safe and feeling safe. Now to the happy stuff. This morning we had the new teacher of the year. Congratulations to Jennifer Ortega at Lehigh Acres Middle School. Yay, she is the new teacher of the year. And she was so excited that she was named, her husband was there and all of that. And for a first-year teacher, there is hope in education. There is hope in Lee County for where we're headed, to have teachers like Mrs. Ortega that first year out, she just hit the ground running. And there are many Ms. Ortegas, and we need to look for them. And as parents sitting out there, look for your Mrs. Ortega and pat them on the back, give them a hug or tell them thank you for all that they do, because it's not been an easy year. I was thinking of the song, and trust me, I won't sing, but hold on to what you got. Okay, you can look it up. I won't sing it. The other was the Apple Mentor of the Year, and it was Mrs. Allie DeLude, and her parents were there. I think one of the highlights was looking at her mother after she was announced, and her mother gave her a hug. I think she thought she was not going to let her go. And she kept like, okay, Mom. But she was so proud, and thankfully so. What was said about Mrs. DeLude is that she's not only the Apple's mentor for one teacher, but how many teachers come and seek her out for her help and all that she does. The next thing, I do think we have some do the right thing. It was my turn this month. I love it. And these are some of the recipients of the Do the Right Thing. It's always fabulous. I love when my turn comes around to do this. and the cutest little kids, and like, well, I just did what I was supposed to do, and they were so cute. They all sat up here on the dais in our chairs, so you couldn't even see them. They were so small. But it's a wonderful organization and a great thing, and especially the parents, when the parents are there. And we started out saying thank you to the parents for raising such thoughtful and mindful and kind students, and we really appreciated that. There was one little boy that was standing up there next to me taking pictures after he got his award, and I said, "Are your folks here?" He says, "Well, they couldn't come because they had," and he named this whole list of things they had to do. All of a sudden, he looked at the door, and they were here. And the smile on his face was just priceless, that they had come, actually. The last thing is, if you have a down day or you need to laugh, you need to go to Learning for Life banquet. Tina Pegler will make sure. I mean, I haven't laughed so hard for so long, and she is just funny, and she's just natural at it, and you get a chance to talk to people that we kind of had a bad naughty table. I won't point to anybody, but we laughed a lot about a lot of different things, but it was so excellent, and seeing the talent that we have and how hard they work with children in the Learning for Life program. And I thought about live, love, and laugh. And that's what we did at that banquet. And I would hope that when we all leave here, that sometime or another we stop and think to live, love, and laugh. And thank you. That's my comment.
Thank you. Okay, let's see. For my comments, a lot of you have already mentioned it. I had the opportunity to be there this morning to see Ms. Ortega and Ms. Duluth, and you're right, it was priceless. Just seeing their expression, I mean, you felt it. And when they start crying, that, yeah, I can't take people crying. It makes me, yeah, I get emotional with them. But Ms. Gittens is correct. It was definitely a worthwhile trip. The 21 miles to Lehigh, it was great. But also, I've had the opportunity to go to our Partners in Education, or States of Our School. That was great. It was highly attended. Everybody thought it was fantastic. We did the ribbon cutting at Gateway. That was another great, and I'm sorry you didn't mention that. That was another great.
Left something for you.
Thanks. It was really a great feeling. We were able to, the students were there. They took us for a tour. It is a fantastic school, and they're going to be really lucky to be in that school. So I'm looking forward to what's going to come out of there. Also attended the, and I know Ms. Gittens was there as well, the all-county dance at North Fort Myers. Our students from middle school, elementary, middle, and high school performed, masks on and everything. They were beautiful. They just did such a fabulous job. They made me feel like I had to get up and start dancing. But it was just beautiful to see these kids in action. So I'm glad we're able to do all that. And I did a visit to maintenance. I know a lot of you have been there. And I was so impressed by them because they seem to work so much together, and the atmosphere there, you feel good when you're in there as well. And I really, you could see the respect that they have for each other, and I really thought that was commendable. Moving on to, I know we have a lot of things that we have been doing, and the board is working on our candidates that we are going to be interviewing, which will be a 2-day, the 7th and 8th. Because of the fact that we have 5, we'll have it on 2 days because we cannot do it all on 1 day. And I was hoping we have scheduled the 14th meetings scheduled as far as a hold date on that. And I was hoping that we could, instead of trying to get everybody in there on the 7th, get everybody in there on the 8th, and then at the last minute make a decision, give us the opportunity to, because I know that's not on the agenda, that's what we had stated that we would do, but we do have the 14th at 9 a.m., which we could then have a really good conversation after we've had time to digest everything that we have had, and bring that back at a briefing, which then would allow public comments, so we're including the public in that, and then have an action meeting that same day, because we already have it scheduled, that we are here. So hopefully everybody will be here. Just do an action meeting, a special action meeting from 4 to 5, just to finalize that candidate. So that is my proposal to you all. I just wanted to put that out there. As I said, we already have these dates scheduled, and then that would again allow public comment. So we will be having public comment twice and giving them the opportunity. Ms. Gittens?
Can you clarify for me? We have a hold from 9 to noon on the 14th?
That's correct.
And then we have a hold from 1 to 4. So are you suggesting that that afternoon one move, or the morning one move to afternoon?
Okay, so no, I'm not suggesting that we move. I'm suggesting that we, I just lost it, I apologize.
Because the morning one is just a hold for now.
Right, and we put these holds so that way we could assure that everybody was going to be here. So that just changed.
So you're suggesting that that afternoon one move to a later start time?
Yeah, so we have a workshop, a 1 o'clock workshop on here. So right after the workshop, I was hoping that we would have from 9 o'clock, 9 in the morning, because we already have that on here, is to take that 9 a.m., say 9 to noon, have good conversation, discussion, and then after our 1 o'clock workshop, which is the calendar, that should not take long. Then after our 1 o'clock meeting, from 4 to 5 o'clock, just 1 hour for us to come in and do a special action meeting, which then would allow public comments and vote for the interim at that time.
May I?
Mr. Pre-Bruno, is that correct, what we talked about earlier?
Yes, that's okay. That's correct. The only thing is I would need just a little bit of time. So if you're going to have the morning briefing from 9 to maybe about 11, so I can have 11 to 1 to negotiate, finalize any contracts that need to be finalized for whomever you decide to choose for that action meeting that day.
And the reason that is because the 7th and 8th, we're going to have so much that we're going to be taking in on the 7th, and then coming back in on the 8th and trying to absorb all of that and then making a decision that night. I don't think it's fair to the candidates, and I think we need to have some time to digest it. So I know those were recommended dates for us to do this. So that's my suggestion. So Ms. Gittens, what was the question?
Well, no, I know you were talking about to be able to have the public come. I'm just wondering, I know it makes for a long break, but
No, we have
move
another thing.
To move that workshop, or else have an hour in between is what you're saying? So you're saying 1 to 4 and then have a break, and then 5 o'clock have the public?
Just 4 to 5. So we're going to already have spoken to everybody on the 7th and the 8th. So we have all of that time. We will have our conversation at the briefing, and that's all we will talk about at that briefing. Then we have to have an action meeting in order to take a vote. So after our workshop, we would then have an action meeting for 1 hour, and that is to come back. We've already had our discussion as to come back and allow us to then take a vote, have public comment, and move forward. Because we had wanted this person to be ready by, I believe it was the 14th or 15th of June. And that way it gives Mr. Pre-Bruno an opportunity to, whatever we decide and whatever we discuss, to go back and negotiate and come up with a contract for the individual.
So we will have already made the decision in the morning.
We would have already had that conversation and then bring that to the vote that evening. That's what I'm recommending.
My only trepidation is from 4 to 5, the early time for people to be here too, but I'm easy, so.
And then we will have conversation, they'll have opportunity on, I believe we have the 7th and the 8th, so there's still opportunity before we do vote for community involvement as well. This is just giving allowing more community involvement. And I know Mr. Cashman had thought that would be not a bad idea either. So it's up to, of course, it's up to us. So any feedback on that, or Ms. Vaughn?
I'm just saying, it's hard to follow. I'm looking at the dates and
Okay, I can share this
It would
again.
be helpful to have like a schedule and that sent to us ahead of time. It's difficult to look at.
Okay, so if you look just open up your calendar.
I have it open.
Okay, so
I'm looking.
the 7th and the 8th.
Are the days, the interview
We are
days.
already having interviews, so we'll have 3 on Monday, 2 on Tuesday. So
Right.
that will be our five candidates. Then we were supposed to come back we could possibly come back that evening and vote. Now, that's given us, you're going to sleep on it on Monday for the 3 that you just spoke to, and then Tuesday, you're going to have the 2 people that, are going to be there. I just think that's a lot. Ms. Dupree-Bruno?
And another consideration is that you're going to have the group interviews. They are going to be in person, but to protect the process, you're going to have 3 on Monday, 2 on Tuesday. You're probably not going to want to have the tapes out on Tuesday. You're probably going to want to have the tapes out later on in the week. So that will also allow the public to have an opportunity to view those tapes and have some feedback on Monday.
So
So that's my, that's my suggestion there.
I understood how it was before. I'm just trying to look. So you're saying which date to make the decision?
That would be that following Monday on the 14th.
On the 14th.
On the 14th. And that's what we were already looking at.
Okay, yeah, it just
scheduling.
was hard to follow and change the schedule in my head and look at that.
And then Ms. Gittens, do you have?
Yes, like I mentioned
And Ms.
that
Patrica.
based on what Attorney Dupree-Bruno was mentioning too about posting, and I mentioned earlier that I had talked to Ms. Stillwell, and in order for them to have time to get it posted, to have a day or so. So if we finish on Tuesday, morning, then to have them post it by Thursday or something would give them time to do all that communications has to do, and the public has an opportunity over the weekend to look.
Correct.
And can send in whatever, things they might have.
That's why.
Yeah, as long as we do it that way, I'm fine with that.
Thank you, Ms.
I
Gittens.
love the idea. Thank you for bringing it up.
Thank you. I just know my head's will blow up. I won't be. Ms.
Thank you.
Fisher?
Yes.
Are you okay with that? Mm-hmm. And Ms. Morgan? Okay, so we don't need a formal vote because we don't have an agenda item on this as of yet. So this was just for consensus for us to go ahead and put that on the schedule. So we will have that there on board docs.
But you can take a vote on it on the 8th if you want to. You can take a vote on it now. It's up to you. A formal motion, it's completely up to the board. But if I could at least get a consensus to make sure, because you're changing the schedule a little bit, and I want to be able to talk to Mr. Cashman about this change. So my understanding is that on the 14th, you're going to have a briefing in the morning to discuss your candidates. And then after the afternoon briefing from 4 to 5, you'll have a special action meeting to actually vote on the candidate. Is that my understanding is correct?
On the 14th.
Okay.
And then that way, everyone has, the public has an opportunity to digest, we have an opportunity to digest it, and we can have clear thoughts when we go forward. So if I can have consensus on that, so that way when we work to put this out there on the agenda, we have it. Ms. Morgan?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Vaughn?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Gittens?
Yes.
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 Yes, please.
And yes, so we will definitely do that. And thank you so much. I just think that it's going to be a better process for that. Ms. Dupree, and that was the end of my comments. And again, thank you all for working so hard to do all this. I really appreciate all of you.
Related to that,
Yes, please, Ms. Vaughn.
are we going to schedule something like like we have a float and the new person comes in? I'm kidding, but maybe not. Hey, that might be fun. But like a formal introduction of the selected new interim
I
superintendent.
move that Ms. Vaughn make the float for the new person.
You know what? Thank you for that. I will help with the float.
Floats, we used to do them in college.
I will speak to Mr. Cashman on that, and so that way he can reach out to all of us and share his thoughts on that. But thank you for that idea. I'll definitely share that with him. That's a good idea. And Mr. Bruno, do you have any comments?
Now, so on the 8th, you will have your new schedule that has this additional time on it, and you will take your formal vote on that new schedule on the 8th of June. Thank you. That's no other comments.
No other comments? Dr. Atkins?
No comments this evening, thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Seals, Jason, thank you so much. And I apologize that I did that. I forget that you have that order back there. But thank you for being here with us, too. All right. Well, seeing no other business, I declare this meeting is over. Thank you so very much. Go in peace, be safe.